how am I framing this? I mean, like
the tiers of the Eastern Conference.
All right, the tiers of the Eastern Conference.
Nobody's crying yet.
We're just trying to take a concept. Yeah, just trying to take a look at how we view the league. Do the East on one pod and the West on another pod, and try to see where we think teams stack up with each other. That's all.
All right, we'll start at the top, which I think it's pretty obvious that the team in Tier A or Tier 1 plays in Boston, Massachusetts, Bontemps.
I don't think there's any question. It should be one team by itself. The one team that won over 60 games last year. The one team that had one of the best winning percentages in NBA playoff history en route to winning a record-setting 18th NBA title. Team that's head and shoulders above everybody until proven otherwise in the East, even with Kristaps Porzingis missing the first couple months of the season. And I thought it was interesting. Jason Tatum did some media stuff after the Olympics and said, look, we got to come back and enjoy ring night and then move on to the next day and not have any of the championship stuff linger. And I think it's interesting. You often see teams that win a title come back and they got a lot of pressure on them to defend. And there's obviously always pressure in Boston to win. But for this group that's waited so long and fought through so many things to get over the mountaintop and finally win, I think there's potentially going to be less pressure on Boston this year than last year, now that they've won. And I also think the way that this summer went, between Jaylen Brown being mad about the Olympics, Jason Tatum then not playing much in the Olympics, I think there's the potential for some extra motivation there for some of these guys, especially those two guys, that wouldn't normally be there in a year after you win a title and break through. So I think things look awfully good for the Celtics, and as long as Kristaps Porzingis comes back from this, rare leg injury he had in the playoffs, okay, it's hard for me to pick against them at minimum coming out of the East, and I think you got to make him, as man, I think you said a bunch, the favorites to be winning another title back in June.
No, I mean,
by the way, Tatum is logging some miles this offseason. So obviously the long regular season, then he did Team USA, which included Abu Dhabi and then France, obviously. He's in Shanghai now.
Well, he was back in his hometown of St. Louis, throwing out the first pitch for that hockey player he went to high school with.
Yeah, Matthew Tkachuk, yeah.
That guy.
Then he's with Luka. Then he's with Luka in Shanghai for a Jordan Brand deal.
And he's got to go back to Abu Dhabi. Right, and he's got to go back. The Celtics and Nuggets are going to Abu Dhabi to open.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Forgot about that. It's open preseason, to be clear.
Open preseason. Sorry.
Yeah. But no, I mean, listen, this is a team that you can't make a case for everybody else as the favorite. You can make a case why other teams have a chance to win the championship, but you can't make a case for everybody else as the favorite after the Celtics win 64 games with a historic point differential and then cruise through the playoffs. Only losing, I think, 3 games in the playoffs. And look, Porzingis, again, whatever the estimate is, I think the timetable had him coming back maybe around Christmas. I'll take
2025. He'll be back.
Yeah. So, let's say he misses the first 2.5 months of the season. I do think he will be cautious. He felt like he rushed back his last full year in Dallas and ended up looking bad because of that. And
by the way, the Celtics have like 5 centers on the roster, in part, I think, to let Al Horford take off a bunch of games, which he will, and to give Kristaps Porzingis as much time as humanly possible to get ready. Because again, all that matters for them is what happens from April to June. They're going to have a high seed. They're going to be ready to go. So they've got Luke Cornett. They've got Xavier Tillman. They've got guys who can eat plenty of minutes as they get through the season and give him time to get right.
And they won the East by 14 games last year. And Xavier Tillman is a serviceable big man. But
we're also intrigued by Neemias Queta, who's a big guy. I think the first Portuguese NBA player, athletic, big, can rim run a little bit. He's going to get some minutes too this year.
Hey man, they just signed Lonnie Walker to a non-guaranteed contract, for crying out loud. Like they're still making addition.
My guess is Lonnie Walker won't be making the roster, but we will see. I think they'll be going into the season with 14 players.
By the way, as important as Porzingis was last year to them, and as well as he played for the Celtics, they went 11-2 in the playoffs without him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Porzingis, and like this is the thing, everybody wanted to sort of evaluate Joel Embiid with the Olympic team. Joel Embiid was brought onto the Olympic team essentially for one game, which was the elimination game against Serbia, and he delivered.
To beat Serbia.
I guess both of those times, but only the one game that really mattered, and he played brilliantly. Was awesome down the stretch of that game. Kristaps Porzingis, while ideally you want him to be more around, games 1 and 2 of the finals, his performance in games 1 and 2 of the finals made it all worthwhile.
Listen, the game 1 was unforgettable as Bill Walton was being honored and everybody's wearing these, all the Celtics are wearing the Walton tie-dye warm-up shirts, and Porzingis is coming off the bench for the first time in forever. Remember, he makes that late, like everybody's out there warming up, and he came out of the tunnel late. Bontemps, you and I were doing hoop streams with Cass.
It's one of the coolest things I've ever been around. The way the crowd reacted to him coming out. It was, especially being in Boston, like that crowd's always awesome. I got chills just thinking about it. It was unbelievable.
It was so loud we couldn't hear each other, despite the fact we had the earpieces in. And so this injury-prone, 7-foot-plus guy serving as a sixth man to help the Celtics win a championship. That's what it was.
He's throwing in, and he's throwing in 30-footers.
It was amazing. It was just such an amazing thing. But yeah, they're by themselves.
That first quarter that he had in that game, the best quarter of his life, certainly the most memorable quarter of his life, that was worth the trade right there.
Is that going to make it into a certain book called Wonder Boy that a certain colleague of mine wrote that quarter?
Oh, absolutely. It'll be a little bit on that for sure. Porzingis gets some time in this book for
I'm sure he does. Okay, so tier 2.
Pretty meaty tier. I'm curious to see how many teams do you guys think are tier 2s?
I personally think there's 2.
2? Wow. Okay. I was going to say I thought it could be as many as 6.
I think that the Knicks and Celtics. I think the Knicks and Sixers are in their own tier.
Okay.
I think I understand the argument because I think you could go bigger, and I'll let you lay it out. But for me, I think the Knicks and Sixers to me are more talented rosters than some of these other teams. I think they fit better, and yes, there's obviously injury questions with Philly, but I think there's more overall questions with Milwaukee and certainly with Cleveland, Orlando, and Indy. I could see the argument of putting them all in one tier together, but I would say it's those 2 teams in tier 2 or however you want to phrase it. And then I think those 4 teams, Milwaukee, Orlando, Indiana, and Cleveland, in whatever order you want to put them in, are in tier 3 together.
So I watched the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and I didn't see either the Knicks or the Sixers playing. Would be my concern with that tier ranking. But I hear what you're saying. They both made major additions in the offseason. All right.
I mean, I do want to talk about those 2 teams, but I'm just going to say that I really think the Bucks are being undervalued. I am not saying they should be the favorite. Giannis has been hurt in the playoffs, and Dame last year was, by his own admission, was out of his element. He openly has been saying that the transition was bigger than he thought. I think it's reasonable to think that pairing will work better.
Well, and Dame was going through a lot last year off the floor as well.
Also, just the transit. Yeah, beyond that, I can't quantify that. What I can quantify is he was asked to play completely differently than he'd played for a decade. More than that, because when he was at Weber State, he played a certain way where he was not really basically the centerpiece of the team. And so, and then the injuries, Middleton, his whole situation being out for so long. And look, I'm not trying to compare Gary Trent to Mikal Bridges, but Gary Trent and Delon Wright are good rotation additions.
No, great minimum signings. I like the Taurean Prince signing. Look,
Taurean Prince.
If you want to argue Milwaukee is up there with those two teams, I totally get it. Because if they're all clicking, they have a ton of talent. There's no question about that. But there's just so many questions with them, right? Chris Middleton is a vitally important player for them. They look totally different when he plays.
Double ankle surgery.
A bunch of games. Right. He's coming off ankle surgery on both ankles. He's missed a ton of games the last couple of years. He was really good in the first round when they lost to Indiana, but he's got to be out there for them to be really good, and it's hard to bet on him being out there. You got Brook Lopez, who's an unexpiring contract and is in his mid-30s. Can he play at the same level again? They need him to do that. They have very little athleticism across the roster. They have very little perimeter defense across the roster. Obviously, DeLon Wright is a help there, but he's going to be coming off the bench. I just think they need to show me they should be in a higher tier before I can put them there personally.
So we're saying tier 2, then Wendy, you're the deciding vote. Do you go with the two teams, the Sixers?
I'm including the Bucks, but Bontemps is not. I mean, that's his opinion.
Then we're squeezing the Bucks in because I was thinking it was going to be more teams.
Let's talk about the Sixers and the Knicks here. They're on a little bit different timelines. The Knicks play is in chemistry, continuity, and flexibility. Mm-hmm. They have built a team that doesn't necessarily have to win it now. Obviously, they're going for it now, but they're young. They're going to be under contract. We'll see what happens with Julius Randle, but the rest of their core is going to be under contract. And this is a team built to withstand the new rules, which is largely because Jalen Brunson was willing to take this $150 million extension. I mean, it was way below his value. And so, and we're assuming that they're going to get Bridges on to extend as well. They are built with wings, which is what you need. They are built with reasonable contracts. They are built with depth, and they are built to potentially be flexible. Their
play is to take 5 years and try to win one of them.
Right, exactly right. And there's one thing that I think you can say that the Knicks have done incredibly well under Leon Rose. They have found an identity, and they have gotten players for their head coach.
100%.
They hired Tom Thibodeau, and then they said, we are going to give Tom Thibodeau style players. And it's so remarkable because it was the absolute inverse of what the Knicks have chased for years, which is short-term, marginal improvement, changing coaches, changing styles, saying that they're going to do something and then abandoning it, chasing the biggest stars, and usually losing out. It is the complete inverse of what they had done for a couple of decades. It is very impressive. You got to pay it off, and losing in the second round last year was not great. They technically didn't make any progression. Obviously, there's a bunch of circumstances with injuries, especially that factored in there, but they didn't technically progress last year. But I think that they're putting down what I think they're basically saying is, put us in the second tier, but we're putting down roots up here.
Yeah, and what the Knicks have learned about themselves over the course of the last couple of years is that Leon Rose's godson is without question a face of the franchise player for a damn good team, right? And listen, nobody thought Jalen Brunson was going to be that caliber. I think when they got him, they thought, hey, we've got a guy I think they believed he was going to be a damn good starting point guard.
and a great leader for their team, but never thought he'd be this.
Yeah, and a good value on that contract that they were originally. I'm talking about the previous deal, 4 years. Where they were originally criticized by a lot of people for overpaying, which in hindsight is absolutely hilarious. In their wildest imagination, Rick Brunson, Jalen's dad and his biggest fan, he wasn't telling anybody, hey, this guy's going to be an all NBA player. He's going to be a MVP ballots.
Right.
But that's who Brunson is. That's the caliber of player that he is, especially in that system, playing for Thibodeau with the trust, with the complementary pieces that they've surrounded him with. And then to get him to take significantly less than market value is a massive, massive win for that franchise.
Yeah, and look, he's the reason why Mikal Bridges is there. They have the Villanova guys there. Like, he's the epicenter of all of it. And it's
DiVincenzo's there.
He's the reason why he's there. Remember, Dante DiVincenzo signed a sub-full mid-level deal last year, right? Like, that's one of the best contracts in the NBA. And he, all of that is because of Jalen Brunson. So, yes, Leon Rose deserves a lot of credit. Tom Thibodeau deserves a lot of credit. The reason this is all happening is because of Jalen Brunson. And again, you said it perfectly, Brian. In today's NBA, you're talking about 1 to 3 year windows for teams. This isn't what it was a long time ago, and you could have a 10-year run with a team generally. There's going to be, Oklahoma City maybe could do that. Maybe San Antonio could do that with Victor Wembanyama, but it's going to be very hard to have long-term sustainable success with the way rosters are going to start to turn over. The NBA wants to be more like the NFL. It's shifting in that direction. But the Knicks are betting that they can have this team together for 5 years. And if you look at the Celtics knocked on the door for 5-6 years and then had a year where everything broke right. They stayed healthy. A lot of teams didn't. They break through. They win the title, right? That's what the Knicks are betting on. That if we're a B+ to A- team for 5 years in a row, we're going to have a year where it all comes together and we're going to be able to win. And we'll see if they're right.
All right. So the Sixers, I think, even though Maxey is very young and Embiid is in his prime, I think their time pressure is a little bit more on them, if for nothing else than because of Paul George's age. I think
Joel's injury history. You can't walk away from that. He's a huge guy. He's had a ton of injuries, and we talk about Giannis being hurt in the playoffs. As Joel said repeatedly, he would like to have one healthy playoffs. He hasn't had one yet.
Right.
And he's 30. How long is his prime going to be? We don't know, but there's pressure to cash in while he's an MVP caliber player.
100%.
For sure. Yeah. And so, look, they had their move on Harden backfired, and they had to pivot, and it took them basically this year. Now, the year was affected dramatically by Joel's injury, but to sort of pivot to get their third player, now they have him, and so now you got to go. So, I definitely think that they're in this tier. I think that they did a pretty good job considering what happens to teams, how they get hollowed out when they have to open up cap space, as we've seen that. I think that they will be. There's a decent chance if you give them another transaction year that Daryl Morey will be able to do some more. But the way they sort of backfilled the roster, they did a pretty good job. And of course, it helps that you have an all-star level player in Maxey who is on a small cap hold to make that all happen. But they are equipped that if everything falls right, that they could do it this year. But they do need things to fall right, and they do need some help elsewhere in the conference. But there's no reason why they couldn't. You could certainly see them winning the East this year.
I don't agree that their move for Harden backfired. Just getting off of Ben Simmons' contract,
I guess,
was a win.
No, not I guess. Not I guess.
No, there's no I guess. The Brooklyn's move for Harden backfired.
Yeah.
Philly got, Harden was at least productive while he was there, and then they were able to get a couple assets when they moved him, while dumping Ben Simmons' albatross of a contract. So that's past tense anyways, and not important in this discussion. I just want to clarify and get,
I mean, use whatever words you want for the Harden experience, but if you don't think backfired is the correct word, then you can nominate some other things. But
underwhelmed, sure.
Okay,
Backfired,
well,
no.
All right, fine.
Yeah,
Well, I just
they
want to
got
get
off the worst.
record. Hey, aggregators, Wendy's wrong.
They got off the worst contract in the NBA, which turned out to be, and they got a guy who helped them win a bunch of games. Like they didn't win as much as they wanted to, but and also making the trade when they did last summer, they made a very high stakes bet that they could cash in this summer with a star. I mean, Daryl Morey said the whole time, "I'm not trading James Harden for mediocre stuff. I'm either getting a star back or I'm putting myself in position to get a star on the team." And there was one star this summer available, and they got him. And if they hadn't got him, who knows where they'd be? But it worked out for them.
And part of that bet was not extending Maxey last year and playing that out. And I don't know, did Maxey make money? Maybe he was going to be fun max regardless. But part of that bet was waiting on that. And, I don't think any of this happens, though. Bontemps, you've made this point many, many times. I don't think any of this happens unless Maxey proves himself as a bona fide, blossoming young star. And I don't know, maybe they would still get Paul George just because his options were limited in the way things played out with the Clippers. But Maxey sure put the Sixers in a position where they were very attractive for a variety of reasons.
I've said this before. If Tyrese Maxey isn't on the team or doesn't develop into this player, Joel Embiid's not on the team anymore. Like it is massively, it is one of the most important things in the league the past few years that Tyrese Maxey hit, or that Mike Muscala hit that shot to give them the ability to get Tyrese Maxey in the draft, that he has developed in the way that he has. Like it's remarkable. And yeah, look, they had as good a summer as they could have had. They get Paul George, which was a 0.001% outcome for them. They get Kelly Oubre back. They get Kyle Lowry back on a minimum. They get Andre Drummond. They get Eric Gordon. They get Caleb Martin. Caleb
Martin was a nice pickup.
They get Caleb Martin. We'll see if Christian Yabusele can give him anything. He at least is somewhat intriguing after the way he played in the Olympics. I'm not super confident he's going to come back to the NBA and be significantly better than he was before, but we'll see. He might be. But they had a very good summer, and you can see if those three guys are healthy. I've said before, I think they're the best big three now in the league. They fit positionally. They got a ton of talent. They've got a ton of shooting now around Joel Embiid. They have put together in one cycle as good a roster as they realistically could have. And so now we'll see if they're healthy. We'll see what they can do. But I would personally have them ahead of Milwaukee and in this group with New York because I think they have more talent. I think Nick Nurse is a better coach. And I think they have more assets to add to this team over the course of the year. But again, if you want to argue Milwaukee's up there because of the strength of Giannis and Dame and what they have, I get it. I just think I need to see a little bit more of it after the way the last couple of years have gone.
All right. Well, anyway, before we go on, I just want to say, when they traded for Harden, Morey is hugging him on the tarmac. He's got a portrait of him in his house. There's Morey Harden 24 T-shirts on sale, and a year later he's calling him a liar. So.
Well, there's a difference between saying it was a smashing success and that it backfired. It didn't backfire because they got rid of Ben Simmons, which allowed them to do.
Hello, fans. As the 2024 to 2025 NBA season quickly approaches, the Philadelphia 76ers are meticulously fine-tuning the final details of their roster. With the formation of their main roster nearly complete, the team, under the direction of Daryl Morey and his front office, is now focused on signing Exhibit 10 contracts. These contracts, which are a common tool for NBA teams to enhance their rosters and their G League affiliates, are intended to complete the NBA G League team, the Delaware Blue Coats. This strategy not only helps in the development of potential talent, but also ensures that the affiliate team is equipped to handle the demands of the upcoming season. On Tuesday, the Sixers organization announced another signing under the Exhibit 10 contract, as reported by Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. Blue Coats veteran Jared Brownridge has agreed to a new deal with the Sixers. This move suggests that Brownridge is poised to rejoin the Blue Coats for the 2024 to 2025 season. Brownridge, who is well known within the organization, will have the opportunity to continue his career with a team that has shown a significant commitment to developing local and promising talent. Jared Brownridge is a player who brings a wealth of experience and an interesting background. After his time at Santa Clara University, where he stood out as a talented point guard, Brownridge entered the NBA draft in 2017 but was not selected. Without an immediate NBA opportunity, he decided to pursue new opportunities in Europe, where he played for Pallacanestro Mantovana in Italy. This international experience was crucial to his development, exposing him to diverse and challenging styles of play, and preparing him for a return to the G League. In 2018, Brownridge joined the Sixers organization, assuming a key role with the Delaware Blue Coats. During his 7 seasons with the affiliate team, he appeared in 200 games, demonstrating consistency and dedication. Averaging 25 minutes per game, he has established himself as a reliable and versatile player. His performances have been instrumental in the Blue Coats' success, especially during the 2022-2023 season, when the team won its first G League title. That season, Brownridge appeared in 28 games and averaged 7 points per game while shooting 37% from three-point range. His performance was a key part of the team's run to the championship, demonstrating his importance in building the roster and winning the title. During the 2023 playoffs, Brownridge contributed an average of 7 minutes per game in 4 appearances. The following year, he started 27 of the 34 games he played for the Blue Coats, averaging 10 points per game and shooting 41% from the field. These numbers reflect his ability to be a vital part of the team's rotation and a reliable source of points. As the Blue Coats prepare to bounce back from their failed attempt to defend their title in 2024, Jared Brownridge's return to the organization represents a strategic addition. With his experience and consistent performance, he is well positioned to play a significant role next season, helping the team return to winning ways and maintaining its influence within the G League. Now, we'd like to hear your thoughts on this never-ending debate. Leave your comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more updates. Thanks for following NBA News on TV.